Hunter here at Weather on the Go. This is your Wednesday evening update on August the 6th, 2025. Significant severe weather with strong damaging winds, destructive hail, and tornadoes are forecast across the United States, and I am here to talk about it, and we're going to be looking ahead at your fire weather outlook and your tropical weather outlook along with your long-range forecast in this video update. So if you find my information reliable, accurate, life-saving, definitely subscribe and like my video. Also share it with a friend, family member, and on social media. Let's look at what we achieved as far as temperatures were concerned this Wednesday afternoon. Record-breaking is the word across the desert Southwest and into the southern plains, where temperatures were soaring, if not well into the 90s, into the triple digits this afternoon. The comfortable air was further off into the eastern seaboard with some rain-cooled air across portions of the Carolinas. Temperatures there were held down near 70 degrees and even some upper 60s, and that marked some record cool highs across those areas. Otherwise, more typical low 80s with low humidity across the upper Midwest this afternoon. Here's where we go tonight. So Thursday morning, you wake up at 7 a.m. These are your temperatures, record warm lows there near the Phoenix area and into southeastern Arizona into the low 90s, 60s, and some 70s sprinkled in across the central U.S. with a little bit of a cooler trend across the Northeast with temperatures starting off on Thursday into the 50s in northern Maine, maybe even some upper 40s out there. Now, we are tracking some isolated severe thunderstorms this evening into the dark green. That's a 1 out of 5 marginal risk of severe weather, where isolated severe thunderstorms will be possible also up there into northern Minnesota as well. And thankfully, the tornado threat is less than 2%. So we're mainly looking at a damaging wind threat up to 60 miles per hour and a quarter-size hail threat for any severe weather that occurs this evening and into late tonight. Let's talk about it. So here into the central United States at 6 o'clock, got a couple showers, remnant thunderstorms here, and then we also have the monsoonal flow from New Mexico northward into Colorado as we go here into the evening. And by the way, the white is cloud cover and the blue is clearing. So you can see partly cloudy skies will prevail across the north central United States this evening, and it looks like the threat for severe weather will hold off until potentially very early tomorrow morning, just before daybreak. Watching out, Omaha southward to the Kansas City metroplex. That's where we could potentially see a couple isolated severe thunderstorms with 60-mile-per-hour winds, quarter-size hail, and locally very heavy rainfall. We look here at the rainfall going through 7 a.m. on Thursday morning. Tomorrow, we can see potentially upwards to an inch of rain, again near Omaha and southward toward the Kansas City metroplex region. Otherwise, a lot of us in the central United States, outside of a stray shower or storm, should be dry going through tonight. Now into the eastern U.S., we got some thunderstorms popping up with the heat of the afternoon and evening. These are pulse-type thunderstorms that develop because of the instability in the afternoon. These will actually decrease in coverage and intensity once the sun sets this evening, and then after midnight, we see a lot of this starting to wind down, although there is a low pressure down here just off the coast of the southeast that will continue to spin up some moisture and some rain opportunities for Virginia and the Carolinas through 7 a.m. on Thursday. And that's where the heaviest rains will be near Wilmington there and North Myrtle Beach, potentially upwards to 3 or 4 inches of rain through Thursday morning at 7 a.m. A lot of us will remain dry into the evening going into the eastern U.S. Into the west, we see a lot of clearing here, but in between, we actually have some showers and some thunderstorms with monsoonal flow across portions of the Four Corners region this evening. We also have some showers and storms popping up there into the Pacific Northwest, Washington State, Idaho, and western Montana. That process will continue as we go through late this evening and into early tomorrow morning, where thunderstorms will become scattered across portions of northern Idaho and into northwestern Montana as we go through 7 a.m. on Thursday morning. Again, a lot of clearing across the desert Southwest. That is because a big ridge of high pressure is across that region, keeping you dry. So bone dry in the desert Southwest outside of the monsoonal flow, and then more moisture picking up from Washington State and northern Oregon, across northern Idaho, and into northwestern Montana, where some spots could see a quarter of an inch or half an inch of rain at most through your Thursday morning. Then as we go into tomorrow, on Thursday, August 7th, the ante of the severe weather threat starts to go up a lot, right? We have an orange area. That's a 3 out of 5 enhanced risk of severe weather. That is where several severe thunderstorms are expected across portions of North Dakota. Outside of that, into the yellow, that is a 2 out of 5 slight risk where scattered severe thunderstorms are possible. And then, of course, in the dark green, extending over there toward Illinois, Wisconsin, and Iowa, and then back toward Idaho, that is a 1 out of 5 marginal risk. That's where isolated severe thunderstorms will be possible on Thursday. Then as we go into Friday, August 8th, rounding out the week, another orange area, an elevated threat for severe weather again, where several severe thunderstorms will be possible in eastern North Dakota, parts of northeastern South Dakota, and into Minnesota going into Friday. And it could be significant. Look at the storm energy. This is your convective available potential energy, or CAPE for short. And looking here at extreme amounts of storm energy, over 4,000 joules per kilogram here tomorrow afternoon. And then once we go into Friday afternoon, once again, a powder keg of over 4,000 joules per kilogram of instability. This is your storm energy here. This is like thunderstorm food. And there's also going to be some rotation in the lowest kilometer of the atmosphere. And you can see that here as we go into the early evening hours on Thursday. That's typically when the low-level jet starts to increase. That will increase the low-level potential rotation in these storms. And then that will weaken by early Friday morning a little bit, and then it'll come back as that low-level jet increases Friday evening. So not only are we looking at damaging winds that, by the way, could be in excess of 75 miles per hour both days on Thursday and Friday, but also some destructive hail, potentially up to baseball size, and a few tornadoes. So here we go on Thursday morning. Things are pretty quiet outside of some drizzle or showers across southern Minnesota or Iowa, some thunderstorms up there into northeastern Montana. We go through the morning hours. A few thunderstorms are possible as that warmer air starts to move further north into the upper Midwest. But as we go into the mid-afternoon, watch this big cluster of storms. You can see the deep reds and purples here across North Dakota. That is signaling the potential for a lot of wind and a lot of hail with these storms, in addition to some very heavy torrential rainfall. So definitely keeping an eye on that. And then going into Thursday evening, this could turn into what we call a bow echo, as the wind, the rear inflow jet, actually pushes the rainfall forward, and that could create wind damage and also a lot of rainfall across portions of the Dakotas and into Minnesota. And then as we go into Friday morning, we'll see a cluster ongoing in the morning, and then more re-intensification in the afternoon with another one of those lines of storms with damaging winds, hail, and a few tornadoes. And then heading into the weekend, we are going to be seeing an occluding low pressure system up in Manitoba with a cold front attached to it down here into the Midwest. This will be a slow moving cold front because it's going to be battling the ridge further to the south. And this could be bringing more additional, at least isolated severe coverage of storms from portions of Michigan, Wisconsin into Iowa and northern Illinois on Saturday. And then on Sunday from portions of Kansas into Missouri, Iowa, northern Illinois, Wisconsin, and Michigan on Sunday, as that low pressure system is occluding, but also tracking up there through Manitoba and toward the Hudson Bay in Canada. So looking at two distinct areas of rainfall here through 7 a.m. on Monday, August 11th. You can see with the tropical influence down here into the southeast, much of the state of Florida, southern and southeastern Georgia, and the eastern Carolinas, especially the closer to the coast you get, we could be seeing a few inches of rain. Dry from the northeast through much of the lower Ohio River Valley into the southern plains. Very dry out west and in the desert southwest where the ridge is. And then picking up with the moisture up here into the Midwest, Iowa, Minnesota, northern Illinois, Missouri, Wisconsin, and Michigan, where we have that slow-moving cold front and that occluding system. That in the southern Canadian prairies, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Ontario, could be seeing a couple of inches of rainfall through Monday morning, and that could be because of that low pressure system moving slowly through those areas. Let's look at the heat as it builds through the rest of the week. Here we go for your highs tomorrow. Back into the triple digits we go across the central and the southern plains. More widespread record heat across Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, and Southern California. Phoenix up to 116, taking a run at 120 tomorrow. And then as we go into Friday, more of that 90s and triple digit heat beginning to build up front of that cold front and that occluding system. Before the cold front comes through, that is going to be bringing some much cooler temperatures to the north central U.S. at times, and some lower humidity on the cold side of that front heading into the weekend. Now, going into next week, the long-range part of the forecast, Monday, August 11th through Friday, August 15th, warm temperatures will prevail across much of the United States, cooler with the rain, cooled air across the southeast with some tropical influence, and cooler in the southern Canadian prairies where much of these low-pressure systems will tend to track as we go through next week. Here's the rainfall opportunities from the Midwest, Great Lakes region down here into the southeast, a little bit drier for the northeast in the I-95 corridor, also dry across the south central plains into the desert southwest where that core of the ridge of high pressure will be residing heading into next week. And then we have that main storm track in southern Canada pushing into eastern Canada here over toward the Hudson Bay of Ontario and into Quebec. Now let's look at the dry weather here across the west, because this is leading to low relative humidity percentages into the 3 to as much as 8% range, and this is very dangerously low humidity as we go through Thursday afternoon and into Friday afternoon, and that will actually signal a critical fire weather concern in red from Wyoming down there into northwestern Colorado, Utah, and eastern Nevada. In orange, that is an elevated fire weather concern for much of the Rockies back there into the Intermountain West. And then in brown from Colorado into New Mexico and Arizona, that is a dry thunderstorm risk where lightning strikes could actually spark new fires that could get out of hand, and that will continue as we go into Friday, August 8th as well. So make sure you are being responsible out west with any fires that you may start as far as campfires are concerned, control burns, and stuff like that. Now let's turn over to your tropical weather update here with the East Pacific. There are 2 tropical storms. The one just formed today. Henriette has formed a few days ago. That is pushing to the west toward Hawaii. Evo, Tropical Storm Evo, has formed in the East Pacific. So let's first look at Henriette. And this will get very close to the Hawaiian Islands and just take it just to the north of the Hawaiian Islands by the time we get to Sunday morning here this weekend. And it tracks it westward as a tropical storm this entire time. Right now, Tropical Storm Henriette has maximum sustained winds of 50 miles per hour. Movement is west at 16 miles per hour. And then we look at Tropical Storm Evo, and it continues to remain west and almost taking more of a northwest track and beginning to get into Category 1 status by the time we get into Friday afternoon before falling back to a tropical storm and then eventually a post-tropical cyclone as it encounters some cooler waters to the west of the Baja of California. So let's walk you through here. This is first going to be looking at Tropical Storm Henriette. This is going to get very close to the Hawaiian Islands, and this could actually lead to some indirect impacts by the time we get to the weekend there, as that system is just to the north here of the Hawaiian Islands, especially by Sunday. This could lead to some swells and some heightened waves there, which could lead to rip current and rough surf across portions of the northern coast of those islands there of Hawaii. So make sure you're watching that, especially Saturday through Monday here, all the way through the late portion of the weekend. Otherwise, we're looking at Tropical Storm Evo that continues to spin up and likely becoming a Category 1 hurricane by the time we get to Friday afternoon, just to the south of the Baja of California, before encountering cooler waters and really fizzling as we go into early next week. Now let's take a look here at the Atlantic. A lot going on here as well. Tropical Storm Dexter, that is a system we're probably no longer going to be talking about. That is moving well out to sea. We have a 30% a decrease in probabilities off the Carolina coast. That's also moving away from North America. Our attention is turning to the MDR. This is the main development region here just to the west of Africa and east of the Lesser Antilles. Look at that big orange cone of uncertainty there. That is up to a 60% chance of development of a system that could develop over the next 7 days. And we look at a lot of the weather models here. Here's the European model. You can see as we go through this week, there's Dexter. There's that very low probability of a system underneath that ridge of high pressure off the east coast that may develop through the weekend. And then there's that orange area that has a 60% chance of development here. And this could be named Aaron potentially as we go into the weekend. Otherwise, the system behind that would become Aaron or Fernando. So we're going to be continuing to watch this as we go into the middle of August. The GFS model, same tune. There's Dexter. We have potentially a system developing, low probability there off the east coast, moving away from North America. There's your third system, there's your fourth tropical wave, and then here's the Canadian model, really, again, singing the same tune as we have continuing to see tropical waves coming off of Africa, pushing into the main development region. So to take away from this, mid-August is the time to watch. Really between August 12th and August 16th, 4 robust tropical waves moving off the monsoonal flow of the Saharan Desert in Africa that could lead to some major tropical systems, including hurricanes, in the open waters of the Atlantic, which could threaten either the Caribbean or the United States down the line. So we're going to be keeping an eye on that. If there was any silver lining that could be suppressing these systems, it's the dry air still coming off the Saharan Desert. We have a big plume of dry air and dust coming off of Africa as we go into this weekend on Saturday, moving over into the main development region and then eventually into the western portions of the Atlantic. That could impede some of these systems from developing as we go into the middle of August. So there is a little bit of a caveat here, and that would be some great news because we obviously don't want a hurricane in the Caribbean and we don't want a landfall in the United States. So we're going to be keeping our hopes high that nothing happens as we go into mid-August. Thank you all for watching. If you found my video informative, reliable, accurate, and life-saving, make sure to like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Comment any comments, questions, and concerns down below. I enjoy answering all your questions. Thank you all for watching. Thanks for the support, everyone. I'll see you all in tomorrow's video.